In the early modern world, no one slept better at sea than the outlaws themselves. Not the navies with their rigid discipline, not the merchants with their crowded holds. Against all expectation, it was the renegades who found real rest. Forget luxury. The answer was a strip of canvas and rope, the hammock slung above the filth and rocking with the waves. While wooden bunks and bare planks left crews bruised, sick, and gasping in stale air, a hammock lifted its sleeper into cleaner currents and rocked them safely through the night. Life below deck on respectable ships meant vermin in your blanket, splinters in your side, and disease carried bed to bed. But the pirate's solution was almost laughably simple. Swing above the chaos, pack it away by morning, and wake ready for storms or battle. What began as a stolen idea became a survival edge. And with hammocks, the most feared men at sea also became the best rested. You want to know misery? Try sleeping on the deck, sodden, freezing, packed with men who haven't seen a bath in months. Navy and merchant ships made sailors fight rats for a spot on hard planks or damp straw, elbows jammed next to barrels and cannonballs. Every roll of the hull risked smashed bones, bruised backs, a face full of someone else's vomit. Men woke with crushed fingers, split lips, and teeth knocked out by rolling cargo. Boards dug into ribs and hips. Rats chewed at toes in the dark. Lice, fleas, and worse crawled the decks in endless waves. Every night, men fought for space against each other, against cargo, against wood as relentless as the sea. Regulations aboard Navy ships, if you dare call them that, gave sailors less than 15 inches of sling room when hammocks finally arrived. Before, it was the hardboards. 2 men to a blanket, faces pressed to splinters. Storm, cough, outbreak. If a man died, his bed became his shroud. The filth settled in layers. Dead skin, spilled grog, crumbs pressed into every plank. Pirates pulled a coup. Not for comfort, no pirate expected luxury, but for survival. Borrowing from Caribbean natives, they strung rough canvas and rope, transforming ship beams into beds. Hammocks rocked with the ship, sparing pirates the battering suffered by so-called legitimate sailors. There were no wooden bunks to trap bodies. When the ship rolled, pirates kept their bones. When storms hit, they woke swinging, not bleeding. The misery of planks and decks became someone else's problem. Officers dropped the illusion of rank. Hammocks replaced status. Even blankets and thin mattresses found their way into the slings when luck and loot allowed. The deck below, reserved for cargo and whatever misery Navy life didn't solve. But here's the pivot. Hammocks went far beyond piracy. Their design stretched back centuries. Indigenous tribes in Central and South America had used hammocks for protection, staying clear of vermin, snakes, wet ground. Columbus saw them in the 1400s, brought back a handful. By the late 16th century, the Royal Navy caught up, officially adopting hammocks under the name hanging cabins or beds as a fix for centuries of sleepless agony. Pirate ships mastered the mechanics: elevate, sway, survive. Every pirate rocking above the carnage punched a hole in the tradition that called suffering price of seaworthiness. There's no romance here, only the understanding that sleep was defiance slung from the rafters. The next time the hull groaned and the barrels broke loose, the outlaws stayed swinging, alive above the carnage. Misery became optional. For pirates, sleep turned from relief into resistance, stitched out of canvas. A hammock on a pirate ship was a crude sling, canvas or sailcloth, knotted at ends, strung between beams, sometimes reinforced with wool or rope if a man could get it. No comfort, only survival. The hammock hung above the filth, above the rats, the pooled water, and the stench of sickness ground into every plank. When the ship lurched, the hammock moved with it. Pirates didn't get thrown across the deck, didn't wake to broken limbs. Navy and merchant sailors were battered by flying barrels and cannonballs. Pirates? They rocked, safe in mid-air. The real danger went beyond bruises. Storms swept decks, waves struck crews like fists. In ordinary bunks, men were pinned, crushed. Hammocks cocooned the sleeper, wrapping canvas tight as the hull bucked under cannon fire or heaved through a gale. The hammock's sides pressed in, keeping bodies from flailing. Pirates woke up swinging, already upright and alert, while their rivals crawled to consciousness, bruised and groaning. The hammock's elevation is protected from rot and infestation. Everything dropped to the deck. Lice, fleas, splinters, pestilence. Pirates slept a handspan above the crawling mass. They rolled up hammocks each morning, aired them in wind and sun, scrubbed and chased away some of the sickness. Navy crews never escaped. Some pirates stuffed bedding with spare cloth or wool, taking rare comfort where they could. Hammocks could even be weaponized, used as makeshift floats in sinkings, barricades against shrapnel, or hasty stretchers if the deck ran red. Swinging in canvas meant nothing tender, just a chance to see the morning. Swaying above the carnage, pirates made their rest an act of resistance, bare survival, one with stolen cloth and stubborn refusal to die with the respectable sailors. Sleep was safety, safety was strength, and for pirates, swinging from wet beams was the one thing the sea could never strip away. Decks were swamps, flowing with sweat, spilled rum, and pestilence. Rats, fleas, and lice multiplied constantly. Navy and merchant bunks became breeding grounds for bloodsuckers, with bodies pressed together, filth soaking into wood as men coughed and waited for the next fever. Pirates broke the cycle. High-hung hammocks stopped the crawl of vermin, keeping sleepers above the worst of sickness and infestation. Canvas cradled each pirate, limiting the spread of lice and fleas that turned regular bunk into pest hotels. Every morning, pirates rolled and aired their hammocks in the sun and wind. Hammocks could be washed, while bunks only collected infection. Diseased men didn't spread sick dust into straw bedding. Each pirate kept his own layer of separation. Even the poorest had scraps of blanket or cover for protection. A fresh canvas and brisk breeze sometimes kept pirate skin clear of the boils and bites that plagued fixed bunks. Hygiene was a battle, not a luxury, a daily chore to fight off the ship's misery. Pirates didn't just battle filth. Salt water and rain washed sweat and grime off bodies, since fresh water was reserved for drinking. Clothing was washed during port stops, shaved with crude razors, and cleaned teeth with chew sticks, or not at all. The head, the ship's bathroom, was just a hole at the bow. One rope dangled into the sea, hauled up for everyone to use as a wipe. Privacy didn't exist, but routine made survival possible. Sometimes hammocks did more. Full of gear, rolled for storage or protection, they created clean partitions, beds for the sick, shields for food, and supplies against pests and damp. Pirate survival stayed filthy, yet relentless, anchored to the hammock. On ships where disease and decay reigned, space on a pirate ship was more precious than gold. Every inch mattered, and every morning pirates packed away hammocks. Rope and cloth vanished into nettings and barrels, freeing up the deck for work, cargo, or chaos. Navy and merchant bunks jammed every free bit of floor. Fixed beds hogged the hold, stuffing men into airless corners ripe for sickness and boredom. Pirates ditched permanent sleeping places, swapping wooden racks for swinging slings that disappeared with the sunrise. Hammocks turned ship organization into a ritual. By daylight, sleeping space became living and fighting space. The deck cleared, weapons ready, barrels rolled out, loot when there was loot, hidden in corners where hammocks once hung. Storage meant survival. Pirates stowed everything in layers. First the hammock, then blankets, clothes, blades, sometimes hard-won valuables. Hammocks often became emergency stretchers, barricades against splinters in the heat of battle, and even makeshift shields lashed to rails and gun ports. The lack of fixed bunks gave pirates radical flexibility. A deck could become a food storeroom at dawn, a hideout by night, a field hospital in the middle of battle. Secret compartments cropped up below deck and in captains' cabins where loot, arms, or contraband vanished from sight. The galley hid forbidden goods behind crates and barrels. Crews packed gear into every cubic inch, freed by hammock organization. Less rigidity meant more readiness. Hammocks doubled as tools, letting pirates remake their ship's anatomy day by day, windfall by windfall. This shifting architecture carried psychological weight too. Unlike Navy crews, trapped in stuffy rows of planks, pirates lived in a ship that felt alive, reshaping itself with their needs. The very act of packing away a hammock each morning reinforced the sense of belonging. A pirate claimed his place at night, then surrendered it to the collective by day. That rhythm fostered unity, reminding everyone that the ship itself was the true home, not a fixed bunk nailed into its ribs. Military ships reduced this system to soulless regulation. Pirates weaponized adaptability. A packed ship didn't mean misery. It meant more men ready to fight, less space for disease, and more opportunities to hide goods from prying eyes. Every pirate who swung by night woke each morning with new territory to defend. A deck unchained from the tyranny of bunks, liberated through ingenuity. Ordinary ships ran on hierarchy. The captain's cabin, the officers' bunks, everyone else crammed together. Rank carved sleep out of bone and privilege. Pirates challenged everything. Hammocks swung side by side, packed as tight as barrels, and comfort seeped even to the greenest deckhand. If a pirate could sling his canvas, he found space like an officer. Pirate democracy stretched across deck beams as the crew held up canvas and each other. Even mates and gunners slept shoulder to shoulder, scraping out privacy with a blanket and tension. Rank muttering in the shadows, but never waving a flag. Some ships kept cabins for captains and quartermasters, the barest dusting of privilege. But most pirates, from veterans to newcomers, slept together in the hold. No fixed ranks, no guaranteed comfort. The captain might hang his hammock by the stern, away from the worst leaks, but he woke to the same lurch, the same stink, the same itch and hunger as any deckhand. Hammocks turned survival into a group act. Mutiny simmered in the background. A crowded hold with slings nose to nose was a living reminder that leadership was borrowed until the next storm or crisis. Each swinging canvas carried more than sleep. It carried the weight of their democracy. Regulations aboard Navy ships meant 14 inches per sailor, barely enough to turn in place, officers high and dry, while the rest suffocated below. Pirates, by contrast, divided space by cunning and luck, not title. When half the crew pulled a watch, the other half swung. Hammocks hung from any beam strong enough to trust, and each man rolled his up at dawn and staked a claim when darkness fell. In a pinch, hammocks became shields, packed for battle or stuffed with a man's few possessions against chaos. Bedding and dignity could be won, lost, or stolen overnight. Sometimes a pirate's hammock was slashed down in a drunken joke or commandeered after a dice game gone bad. Each man fought for his patch of swinging cloth, not for honor, but to feel less like livestock. Private space was a negotiation, not a right. Even the best spot could mean nothing when the ship turned wild. Sleep was always temporary, forever on the edge of discomfort. Egalitarian rest, enforced by exhaustion, shared misery, and the blunt truth that survival was mutual, a crew sleeping together, holding together, because anything less was a death sentence at sea. Sleep on a pirate ship was never safe. Every night carried the threat of disaster, a rogue wave, a sudden squall, an attack. Merchant sailors, hugging planks, and navy men pressed tight into bunks, woke battered and slow. Pirates, though, had their hammocks slung high. When the hull groaned and thunder split the deck, the pirate's canvas cradled him above the misery. Hammocks absorbed shocks, swayed with the chaos, shielded bodies from flying barrels and cannon. Pirates woke swinging, ready for violence or storm. No scramble off a bunk, no broken bones from tossing decks. In battle, hammocks became shields. Pirates packed them with gear or lashed them to rails to block splinters and shot. Stretchers improvised from hammocks hauled the wounded below, canvas now wet with blood and brine. Navy ships fixed their bunks to the hull. Pirates turned every sling into a movable line of defense. The moment action struck, sleeping spaces vanished, cleared for weapons, fighting, or desperate retreat. Chaos demanded flexibility. Pirates stripped down the sleeping quarters, transforming the deck into barricades, hiding places, or command posts. Hammocks offered more than rest. They let pirates recover faster, respond quicker, and reorganize in seconds. When storms rolled cargo, pirates swung above the tide of destruction. When cannon fire ripped through the decks, the crew leapt from slings onto the barricades, canvas snapping taut, adrenaline burning away fatigue. For pirates, sleep's advantage was practical, not romantic. Survival in crisis came down to readiness, how quickly a man moved from vulnerable to lethal. What others called comfort, pirates knew as a lifeline, a system for outlasting storms and skirmishes alike. Pirates traded comfort for cunning, and every morning proved which crew could still swing, still adapt, still fight. Comfort on a pirate ship was never handed down. It was seized, fought for, and defended against the odds. Each pirate staked out hammock space with the rhythm of survival, stringing canvas high and learning to wake swinging when chaos hit. The rejection of permanent bunks let pirates transform their quarters daily, sleeping above decks by night, clearing every inch for work, cargo, or battle by day. Even in storms or sudden attacks, pirates used hammocks as shields or stretchers and packed gear in layers for swift adaptation. The tactical edge came with every moment of crisis and routine. While navy and merchant ships locked men into stationary beds and boredom, exposed to disease and delays, pirates slept in defiance. The hammock was more than a bed. It was a license for speed, cunning, and group readiness, a way to turn tight quarters into strength. Each morning's fight for a scrap of space was a ritual. Each night's rest above crawling filth, a forged advantage. Pirates recovered quickly, met violence or weather upright, and learned to make discomfort a shared tool. It was ingenuity that marked the difference, stripping comfort out of the equation. Every scrap of comfort earned above the deck was a snub to the traditions of suffering. The true advantage was resilience. Outlaws swinging in tight convergence above disease, ready to wake, fight, and survive whatever madness the sea could invent. Comfort, in the hands of pirates, became a weapon, and the hammock its sharpest edge, swaying proof that those outlaws slept better, fought harder, and outlasted rivals with nothing but canvas, rope, and bare necessity. In the end, pirates didn't just steal treasure, they stole better rest, and with it, survival itself.